Have you ever found yourself caught in that relentless hamster wheel of constantly working, pushing off true enjoyment for some far off, mythical retirement that feels perpetually out of reach?
hmm
Or maybe you're just perpetually busy, responding to emails, rushing from one meeting to the next, but at the end of the day, you're left wondering if you were truly productive.
It's a feeling many of us can relate to, definitely. And what's truly striking is how deeply ingrained this traditional path has become. We sort of accept it as the default, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yet beneath the surface, there's often this persistent, gnawing question.
hmm
Why exactly are we doing all of this?
Hmm.
The idea that we're meant to endure 15, 20, even 30 years of what the sources bluntly call soul-crushing work seems to be the accepted norm.
It really does.
But if we consider the broader picture, it's not just about accumulating wealth for some distant future. It's profoundly about the sustainability of our energy, our interest, and, well, our overall well-being.
Right. Can we even keep it up?
Exactly. The authors challenge us with this provocative thought experiment. If you were offered a hypothetical $10 million to work 24 hours a day, nonstop, for 15 years straight, would you take it?
No way. That sounds like torture.
Of course not.
Yeah.
It's physically and mentally unsustainable. So why then, the sources ask, do we so readily accept a career path that essentially demands the same level of commitment, just spread out over a longer, arguably even more insidious period?
Insidious. That's a strong word, but I see the point. It creeps up on you.
It forces us to take a critical look at whether the conventional path truly aligns with, a meaningful life.
That's a powerful way to frame it. And that fundamental reevaluation is precisely what we're going to explore in today's deep dive. Our sources dive headfirst into an alternative vision for work and life, introducing us to what they term the new rich and the revolutionary concept of lifestyle design.
Yeah, lifestyle design, it's a great term.
This isn't about simply optimizing your current routine. It's about fundamentally rethinking how you engage with work and life. It's a stark contrast to the traditional 9 to 5 grind, the endless climb up the corporate ladder, all in pursuit of a retirement that, as we'll see, often proves to be, well, kind of an illusion.
And what's crucial to understand is that being part of the new rich isn't about inheriting wealth or being born into privilege. I mean, the author, for instance, comes from a pretty modest background. His parents' combined income never exceeded $50,000 a year, and he started working himself at just 14.
Wow, okay. So not born with a silver spoon.
Not at all. Nor is it about needing an Ivy League education or a string of prestigious degrees. In fact, many of the inspiring role models highlighted in the sources are not Ivy League graduates. Some are even college dropouts.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the point isn't to disparage higher education, obviously, but rather to highlight that top academic institutions often inadvertently funnel their brightest graduates into these very high-income, 80-hour-a-week positions.
The exact jobs we were just talking about.
Precisely. Where those 15 to 30 years of soul-crushing work are accepted as the unavoidable default. The new rich philosophy, by contrast, seeks to invert that entire paradigm.
And it's vital to stress that becoming one of the new rich doesn't automatically mean you have to quit your job tomorrow or suddenly become some daredevil risk taker leaping into the unknown.
Right, it's not necessarily about that extreme.
The sources are quite explicit. There are adaptable paths for nearly every comfort level, whether you're someone looking to use what they call Jedi mind tricks, essentially strategic maneuvers and clever communication, to gradually shift into working remotely.
Which we'll definitely get into later.
Or if you're aiming to design entirely new businesses that effortlessly finance your ideal lifestyle. We're talking about real-world examples, like a Fortune 500 employee who managed to explore the hidden jewels of China for an entire month, maintaining his job with the clever use of technology, all while his colleagues thought he was still in the office.
That's a classic story from the book, yeah. Amazing.
Or how about creating a hands-off business that can generate a staggering $80,000 per month with virtually no active management from you?
I mean, that's the dream for a lot of people, isn't it? The overarching objective of this new rich philosophy at its very core is to gain freedom. Specifically, the freedom of time and the freedom of place.
Time and place, the two big ones.
And once you have these two critical freedoms, the ability to use them however you choose. It's about designing and living that ideal lifestyle right now, in the present, rather than perpetually deferring it to a mythical someday.
Someday. The dream killer.
Exactly. That concept of someday is something we'll certainly be deconstructing in depth.
And this isn't some niche abstract theory. This book, the central source for our discussion today, has been sold into 35 languages, consistently graced bestseller lists for over 2 years.
Yeah, its impact is undeniable.
And its principles are echoed in countless news stories popping up everywhere, from The Economist to the cover of the New York Times style section, from the bustling streets of Dubai to the cozy cafes of Berlin.
It really struck a chord globally.
So it brings us to that central, compelling question. How exactly does someone go from working a grueling 14-hour day, earning a modest $40,000 per year, to effortlessly working a 4-hour week and generating $40,000 plus per month?
It sounds almost impossible when you put it like that.
It does. Well, that's precisely the blueprint we're diving into today.
Let's do it.
Okay, so to begin this journey, we first need to confront and challenge some of the most deeply ingrained assumptions about how we live and work. The sources really put a spotlight on what they call the deferred life plan fallacy.
Right.
This is that widely accepted, almost universal, but deeply flawed idea that you toil away, working 60, 70, or even 80 hours a week for 15 to 30 years, all with the vague hope that happiness and fulfillment will somehow magically appear at the end during retirement.
And when we really delve into the bigger picture, this isn't merely about financial planning. It's about the very sustainability of our human energy and our intrinsic interests. As the sources point out, both energy and interest are inherently cyclical.
Yeah, you can't just stay on forever.
Absolutely not. The author posits that the notion of working 24 hours a day for 15 years to accrue $10 million is fundamentally unsustainable. So the piercing question becomes, why would we ever accept a career that, in essence, demands the exact same unsustainable commitment, just stretched over a significantly longer, more draining period?
It's a really uncomfortable question when you put it that way.
It is, and the harsh truth, as the sources reveal, is that for the vast majority of people, even with diligent saving, the traditional retirement math simply doesn't add up. $1 million, often held up as the gold standard for retirement, is now considered chump change when you factor in inflation typically 4% annually and a potential retirement period that could easily span 30 years or more.
$1 million sounds like a lot, but over 30 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, not so much anymore.
Exactly. This grim reality often leads to a bittersweet ending, where those idealized golden years regress into a lifestyle reminiscent of a lower middle-class existence. Depressing. And then there's the equally troubling flip side. If you are that ambitious, hardworking individual who actually does manage to accumulate a substantial nest egg, the paradoxical truth is you'll likely find traditional retirement so devoid of purpose and engagement that you'll quickly seek another job or even start a new company.
Huh. So you work like crazy to retire only to get bored and go back to work.
Precisely. It entirely defeats the purpose of decades of deferral, doesn't it?
That's a truly sobering thought, that both ends of the spectrum can lead to disappointment if we cling to this traditional model. And closely linked to that is what the sources call the problem with someday.
Ah, yes, someday.
We're all guilty of it, aren't we? Telling ourselves someday when the stars align, or someday when all the traffic lights turn green, then I'll finally pursue that dream, take that trip, or make that change. But the sources are incredibly blunt, almost confrontational about this. Someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you.
Ouch. But, probably true for a lot of people. The universal truth is that conditions are, quite simply, never perfect. The world isn't waiting for your perfect moment.
Right. There's always something.
Always. And those meticulously crafted pro and con lists we often make. While they seem rational, the sources argue they're frequently just a sophisticated psychological tool for postponing action.
Really? Like analysis paralysis?
Sort of, yeah. If something is genuinely important to you, if it's a desire that truly burns within you, the advice is clear and direct. Eventually, just do it. Take the leap and commit to correcting your course as you go along.
Learn as you go.
Exactly. It really makes us reflect. How often do we inadvertently use the guise of careful planning as a subtle, self-defeating form of procrastination? It's a profound question about our own internal resistance to change.
And for those actions that, let's be honest, aren't going to cause catastrophic harm to those around you, the underlying philosophy here is beautifully liberating. Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
A classic line.
Try the thing you're hesitant about, put it into practice, and then justify it with the results or the experience. This concept is vividly brought to life in the fascinating story of Hans, an attorney who was on a clear path to the top of his profession, enjoying all the trappings of success, but felt an undeniable, soul-crushing boredom.
I remember this story. He ends up in Brazil, right?
Yeah, he was in Florence, Italy, when he made the pivotal decision to completely shake up his life. His journey led him to Brazil, where he met Tatiana, a vibrant carioca, that's a person from Rio de Janeiro, a term deeply rooted in local culture, who shared his passion for the ocean.
How's idyllic?
Hans eventually traded his high-pressure legal career for a life spent relaxing under palm trees, fishing, and taking out tourists on the waves. He candidly shares that he learned a profound lesson. Risks weren't that scary once you took them.
Facing the fear.
He often encounters the very individuals he used to be, underjoyed and overworked professionals, whom he now takes out on the waves. They all inevitably express their envy and wish they could do what he does. And his reply is always the same, incredibly simple and powerful. You can.
Wow. It's a powerful testament to the idea that putting your current unfulfilling path on indefinite pause isn't a sign of weakness or giving up. It's frequently the most direct route to a more vibrant and fulfilling existence. Hans's story truly sets the stage for understanding the author's own profound personal transformation, which underpins so much of this philosophy.
Absolutely. Here's where it gets truly transformative and honestly quite shocking. Imagine being at the absolute pinnacle of what most people would consider financial success, making a significant amount of money, say $40,000 a month, but simultaneously being utterly miserable.
40 grand a month and miserable, that's hard for some people to wrap their heads around.
Right. But he was working a brutal 12-plus hours a day, 7 days a week. That was the author's stark reality with his company, Brain Quicken. He vividly describes it as having painted himself into a corner, trapped by his own success.
Yeah, the golden handcuffs situation.
Exactly. The turning point wasn't some sudden epiphany while meditating, but a near breakdown during a supposed 1-week vacation to Florence, Italy. He spent a significant portion of that time, nearly 10 hours a day, freaking out in an internet cafe, wrestling with the overwhelming stress and unhappiness of his life.
So the misery was the catalyst, not some grand plan.
Totally. That deep, visceral misery was the catalyst. It forced him to redefine everything. And from that point of extreme burnout, he transitioned from that grueling 14-hour-a-day grind, which had been earning him $40,000 a year initially, to a lifestyle of 4-hour work weeks, generating $40,000 plus per month.
Okay, that's the headline number that grabs everyone. 40K a year to 40K a month while working way, way less. It's an almost unbelievable shift, but one that he meticulously breaks down.
And he really does break it down.
And what's particularly fascinating is how this personal journey of transformation isn't just a sudden change. It's rooted in a consistent thread of what the sources identify as a disdain for authority and a remarkable embrace of unorthodox approaches, evident from a very young age.
Like the ice cream parlor story.
Yeah. We learned about his first job at 14 in an ice cream parlor where he was fired for completing his cleaning duties in a mere hour, rather than stretching it out over the allotted 8, spending the rest of the time engrossed in kung fu magazines.
Huh. Efficient, but maybe not what the boss wanted.
Apparently not. There's the anecdote of how he managed to gain admission to Princeton, despite his SAT scores being a staggering 40% lower than the average admitted student, leading him to wryly conclude he's just not good at reality.
Okay, there's definitely a pattern here.
Right. Even before he designed his actual product, he attempted to sell a self-published audiobook on how to beat the Ivy League, demonstrating an early understanding of finding a market before committing to product creation. These formative experiences reveal a consistent pattern, encapsulated by his own mantra. Different is better when it is more effective or more fun.
More effective or more fun. I like that.
He was always looking for the alternative, more efficient, or more enjoyable path.
And this mindset, this willingness to challenge the conventional, culminates in what the sources call the kickboxing analogy, which is just a wild story that perfectly illustrates his approach.
Oh yeah, the Shuijiao Championship.
The author won a national championship in Chinese kickboxing, or Shuijiao, in an astonishing 4 weeks. Now, he wasn't naturally gifted at punching and kicking. He humorously describes himself as having a watermelon head, a rather large target.
Oh, self-deprecating.
But he won by understanding and ruthlessly exploiting the rules of the competition, rather than just playing the game in the typical way.
This specific anecdote truly forces us to question our preconceived notions of winning and effort. The author's kickboxing story provides a brilliant illustration of the crucial distinction between the official, written rules of a system and the often self-imposed unwritten rules we implicitly adopt.
So finding loopholes, or just understanding the rules better than anyone else.
More the latter, I think. He details how he used extreme dehydration techniques before weigh-ins, a common practice among elite powerlifters and wrestlers, to make weight, giving him a competitive advantage. He also mastered the rule that allowed pushing opponents out of the ring, which counted as a technical knockout, or TKO.
Ah, so not just punching and kicking. Pushing was key.
Exactly. This wasn't about cheating. It was, as the sources emphasize, about doing the uncommon within the rules. It highlights a strategic mindset, not just playing the game as everyone else understands it, but carefully examining and leveraging the defined system to achieve superior results. It's a powerful lesson in beating the game, not just playing the game.
That's a truly profound shift in perspective, isn't it? It perfectly encapsulates the entire purpose of this deep dive, to not just talk about these ideas, but to show you exactly how you can begin to separate your income from the time you spend working and truly design your ideal lifestyle simply by looking at the world and the rules within it differently.
Right. It's about finding those leverage points.
So, after this philosophical groundwork, how do we actually begin to implement these radical ideas? The core principles for achieving this newfound freedom, according to our sources, revolve around two incredibly powerful intertwined concepts: elimination and automation. Let's begin with elimination, the art of doing less to achieve more.
Okay, elimination first. This is where we directly challenge the often misguided traditional notion of time management. The sources are quite emphatic, advising us to forget all about it in its conventional sense. The emphasis isn't on cramming more tasks into each day or meticulously filling every second with activity.
No more complex to-do list systems.
Not necessarily the focus. As the author learned through his own painful experience, being busy is most often used as a guise for avoiding the few critically important but uncomfortable actions.
Oof, that hits home. Busy work versus the hard stuff.
Exactly. This observation prompts a really important question for each of us. How frequently do we, perhaps subconsciously, mistake sheer activity for genuine productivity? We often fill our days with low-value tasks because they're easy, familiar, or provide a sense of accomplishment without actually moving the needle on our most important goals.
That's such a fundamental truth. And the truisms that follow are equally incisive. Doing something unimportant well does not make it important.
Right. Effort doesn't equal importance.
And requiring a lot of time does not make a task important. It really drills home the point that what you choose to do is infinitely, fundamentally more important than how efficiently you do it.
Effectiveness over efficiency, always.
Think about it. Applying maximum efficiency to the wrong things is not just useless, it's a waste of precious energy. It's like speeding up the process of digging a hole in the wrong place. You just get to the wrong place faster.
Great analogy. To help us identify those right things and ruthlessly cut out the rest, the sources introduce us to the universally applicable Pareto principle, widely known as the 80-20 rule.
The classic 80-20.
This principle, derived from the observation that 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of its population, broadly states that approximately 80% of your results, whether in business or life, will come from a mere 20% of your efforts or inputs.
Okay, let's dive into a powerful application of this. The author's own business serves as an incredible case study. He found himself managing over 120 wholesale customers. Yet upon closer inspection, he realized a shocking truth.
Yeah, this part is really eye-opening.
A mere 5 of those customers, less than 5% of his total customer base, were responsible for bringing in a staggering 95% of his total revenue.
95% from just 5 clients.
Meanwhile, he was dedicating an agonizing 98% of his time to chasing, managing, and troubleshooting issues with the other 95% of his customers, who collectively generated only a meager 5% of his income.
That's just, wow.
Wow.
So much wasted effort.
He admits he was simply working because I felt as though I should be doing something from 9 to 5, perpetuating a cycle of low-value busy work. So he made the incredibly difficult, emotionally challenging decision to stop contacting 95% of his customers entirely.
That must have been terrifying, letting go of customers.
Totally. He even went a step further and actually fired 2% of them, choosing instead to focus solely on the top 3% of producers. The immediate, almost unbelievable result: his monthly income doubled from $30,000 to $60,000 in just 4 weeks.
Doubled his income by firing customers.
And simultaneously, his grueling weekly hours plummeted from over 80 to approximately 15. That's the sheer transformative power of applying the Pareto principle, not just intellectually understanding it, but applying it ruthlessly to your work.
Ruthlessly is the key word there.
He then replicated this success by applying the same principle to his advertising, identifying the 80% of revenue-generating ads and eliminating the underperforming 20%.
And this principle extends far beyond the realm of business. It's equally applicable to your personal life. The sources urge you to identify the 20% of people who cause 80% of your problems.
Ooh, controversial.
And then, quite frankly, fire them from your life, or at the very least, drastically reduce the time you spend with them.
Easier said than done sometimes, but I get the point. Energy drainers.
Similarly, you can pinpoint the 20% of information or activities that consume 80% of your time and attention, often with little to no meaningful return. This calls for a profound level of discernment, forcing you to be highly selective about where you truly invest your finite time and energy. It's about being proactive in designing your input, not just reacting to it.
Speaking of time, another absolutely critical concept for elimination is Parkinson's law,
Oh, Parkinson's law. Love this one.
which states that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion.
This observation really brings up an important point about our own tendencies towards self-sabotage. How often do we experience this phenomenon ourselves? We allow minor tasks to inexplicably swell and consume an entire day, or even longer, simply because we've allocated too much time to them.
Guilty as charged, that email reply that takes all afternoon.
Right, it's not about being inherently lazy. It's about understanding and leveraging a deep-seated psychological principle to force ourselves into efficiency. The sources vividly illustrate this. If you give yourself just 24 hours to complete a complex project, the intense time pressure forces you to strip away all non-essentials, prioritize execution, and focus only on the bare essentials. You become incredibly efficient.
Deadline pressure works.
It really does. But if you grant yourself a week for the same task, it mysteriously transforms into 6 days of making a mountain out of a molehill, filled with unnecessary complexity and diversions. The stark reality, as the source underscores, is that most inputs are useless and time is wasted in proportion to the amount that is available. This explains how seemingly simple tasks like dropping off a package, scheduling appointments, or merely checking email can, without firm boundaries, mysteriously stretch to consume an entire 9-to-5 workday, despite their actual core work taking minutes.
It's truly eye-opening how much precious time and mental energy we can unknowingly squander. And a significant culprit in that insidious time wasting is the sheer volume of information we consume, leading to what the source cleverly terms the low information diet.
The low information diet.
Yes.
Treat information like food.
It's about consciously treating information consumption the way we might treat our calorie intake, recognizing that consuming too much and from the wrong sources can be incredibly detrimental to our well-being and productivity.
The premise here is straightforward. The vast majority of information we encounter daily is not only time-consuming, but often negative, largely irrelevant to our core goals, and entirely outside our sphere of influence.
So much news is like that, negative and out of our control.
Exactly. The profound challenge for us, then, is to internalize the idea that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. This isn't about being ignorant. It's about intentionally cultivating what the sources call selective ignorance.
Selective ignorance. I like that framing.
It's a conscious decision to filter out the noise and focus your precious attention only on what genuinely matters to your objectives and peace of mind.
So practically speaking, what does this actually mean for you, the listener, right now? It means taking concrete, sometimes radical steps. The sources advocate for an immediate 1-week media fast.
A full week. Wow.
That means absolutely no newspapers, no magazines, no news websites whatsoever. In fact, they even humorously suggest that this deep dive might be your only exception during that week.
We appreciate the exception.
The challenge is to actively replace that newly freed up time with truly meaningful activities. Engaging in deeper conversations with your spouse, spending quality time bonding with your children, or critically, immediately applying the very concepts we're discussing today to your own life.
Use the time productively, not just fill it with other distractions.
Right. After that initial fast, you can introduce very limited news consumption, perhaps a single 5-minute news fix once a day, gleaned from a well-informed colleague during lunch, rather than endless scrolling. The sources even recommend using digital tools like Firefox's Leech Block to actively block time-wasting websites.
Blocking the distractions. Crucial.
And here's a particularly radical yet liberating piece of advice. Practice non-finishing. If you find an article, a movie, or even a meal to be boring, unproductive, or simply not serving you, stop consuming it.
Just stop. Don't feel obligated.
Exactly. Don't feel obligated to finish something just because you started it. The mantra here is powerful. More is not better, and stopping something is often 10 times better than finishing it. It's about respecting your attention and your time above all else.
This entire approach is about intentionally creating expansive space in your life and rigorously focusing your attention on what genuinely matters, rather than passively allowing yourself to be overwhelmed and distracted by whatever fleeting information comes your way. It's an active exercise in mindfulness and boundary setting.
And a colossal part of creating that space is what the sources call interrupting interruptions. Fundamentally rethinking and actively managing your communication flow to prevent the constant barrage of distractions that plague modern work.
Yes, the constant pings and notifications,
Right.
the enemy of deep work.
So when we talk about interrupting interruptions, what does this ultimately mean for you in your daily life? It means reclaiming your autonomy, declaring that your phone and your inbox are not your masters. You are in control.
Taking back control, love it.
It's about intentionally designing a system where you dictate the flow of communication rather than being constantly at the mercy of incoming pings and alerts. Imagine the hours you could free up, the deep work you could accomplish simply by strategically handling your communications.
It really adds up over time.
For email, the advice is straightforward. Batch, check it. Instead of constant monitoring, dedicate specific, limited times, perhaps just twice daily, to process your inbox.
Batching. Super effective.
The author himself exemplifies this, describing using autoresponders that inform people he checks email only once a week, and at times as infrequently as once a month.
Once a month. That's extreme, but it makes the point.
Right. He also employs specific email addresses for different types of contacts, further segmenting his digital communication. When it comes to phone calls, the suggestion is to use two distinct numbers, one for truly urgent matters and another for non-urgent calls.
Separating the urgent from the not so urgent.
Let those non-urgent calls go directly to voicemail and then process them in batches at your convenience. The core principle here is patiently, consistently teaching people to wait for your response rather than expecting instant access. It's about shifting expectations.
The sources highlight a truly startling statistic here. A significant 28% of a typical knowledge worker's day is consumed by interruptions and the task switching they necessitate.
28%, that's huge. Almost a third of the day gone.
It's massive. This batching strategy for both emails and phone calls, as empirically proven by the author's own experience, can free up hundreds of hours of otherwise redundant work, and any minor issues that arise from a delayed response are almost always negligible compared to the massive gains in focus time. It's an incredibly pragmatic approach to reclaiming control over your most valuable asset, your attention.
And then, of course, there are meetings, the bane of many people's existence.
Oh, meetings.
But the rule laid out here is crystal clear and uncompromising. Only hold meetings to make concrete decisions about a predefined situation. Never hold a meeting simply to define the problem itself.
Decide, don't define.
Got it. Always, without exception, request a clear agenda in advance. Keep meetings rigorously short, ideally no more than 30 minutes. And crucially, do not provide open-ended discussion times. Every agenda item should have a clear time allocation.
Short, focused, agenda-driven. The way meetings should be.
The entire purpose is to ensure that every single meeting has a precise, actionable purpose and a well-defined endpoint, preventing them from becoming vague, time-sucking black holes.
This intentional, disciplined structuring of your communication flows in meetings is absolutely vital for minimizing wasted time and forcing a profound level of efficiency. Once you've mastered the art of eliminating the unnecessary, the sources guide us to the next powerful principle: automation.
Okay, automation, making yourself dispensable.
This is about strategically making yourself, or at least your direct involvement, expendable within a system.
This isn't about building massive, sprawling corporations for the sake of infinite growth, as is often the traditional business mindset. Instead, it's about owning businesses or systems that require minimal, if any, direct time investment from you.
Right. Less management, more ownership of assets.
It's about intelligently replacing yourself and your daily input with automated processes. The sources make a compelling observation. People can't believe that most of the ultra-successful companies in the world do not manufacture their own products, answer their own phones, ship their own products, or service their own customers.
That's true, isn't it? Think about Apple, Nike. They don't own the factories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In today's interconnected world, there are literally hundreds of companies providing specialized, rentable infrastructure to handle virtually all of these functions, allowing you to focus on the strategic, high-leverage activities.
What's truly eye-opening here is this fundamental shift in mindset. The objective isn't to become an expert in every single aspect of your business operations. Rather, it's to own a system, a well-oiled machine that can operate effectively and independently, largely without your constant intervention.
Own the system, not be the system.
Perfectly put. The primary, most accessible tool for achieving this, according to the sources, is the strategic use of virtual assistants, or VAs.
Virtual assistants. Okay, this is a big one for a lot of people.
Huge. VAs are presented as an incredibly low-cost, low-risk entry point into effective delegation. The benefits are quite significant and immediate. You can have people working productively for you even while you sleep, thanks to leveraging different time zones.
Like having a team working while you're off.
Exactly. For example, engaging VAs in countries like India means they can complete tasks during your nighttime hours, delivering results by your morning. And the hourly expense is dramatically lower, often ranging from $4 to $15 per hour, a stark contrast to typical domestic rates.
$4 an hour. That's incredibly cheap compared to hiring locally.
It really changes the economics of delegation. And the range of tasks you can confidently delegate to VAs is truly astonishing, far exceeding simple administrative duties.
Yeah, you mentioned some wild examples earlier.
Beyond the typical business-related tasks like web research, scheduling appointments, handling online purchases, document creation, or website maintenance, the sources detail examples of VAs handling incredibly personal and complex tasks. This includes finding a new job for someone who's been laid off, managing home repairs like fixing a broken window,
Finding a parking spot. Seriously.
even researching and locating a specific parking spot in an unfamiliar city before you arrive, charting intricate diet plans, ordering groceries, or in one particularly memorable anecdote from the author's own experience with his VA, Arsha, even mediating a marital argument.
Okay, mediating an argument, that's next-level delegation.
It certainly pushes the boundaries. This broad scope of delegation forces us to confront a really important question. How comfortable are we personally with relinquishing control and entrusting others, particularly individuals we may never meet in person, with such varied and sometimes intimate personal information?
That's the big hurdle, right? Trust and control. So, given this incredible scope, how does one delegate effectively without inadvertently creating more work for themselves?
Good question. The golden rule, as the sources strongly emphasize, is absolutely critical. Eliminate before you delegate.
Eliminate first, always.
Never, ever automate or delegate something that could simply be eliminated in the first place. And similarly, never automate what can be streamlined. Once you've done that pruning, the practical advice is to provide incredibly precise, what they call second-grade level instructions.
Keep it super simple.
Break down tasks into their simplest components. And to ensure understanding, always ask your VAs to rephrase the task back to you in their own words. When assigning, send one task at a time, or no more than two, and clearly prioritize them.
1 or 2 tasks max, prioritized. Got it.
The sources also strongly recommend using a reputable VA firm or VA service with established backup teams like Brickwork or YMII, as this provides greater reliability and access to a diverse range of skill sets.
So go with a firm, not just an individual, for reliability.
Generally safer, yes. This brings us back to that crucial question. For many, the idea of giving up control, especially over personal or sensitive information, is genuinely terrifying. The sources acknowledge this as the #1 fear people express when considering VAs.
Like giving someone your passwords. Yikes.
Even recounting the author's own VA, having knowledge of his cholesterol levels, social security number, and various passwords. However, if we put this in a broader context, the ultimate goal isn't to eliminate all risk from your life. That's an impossible endeavor. Instead, it's about managing risk effectively, strategically, to unlock significant personal freedom and capacity.
Risk management, not risk elimination.
Exactly. The small, manageable cost of potential minor issues is almost always dwarfed by the immense gains in time, mental space, and overall lifestyle flexibility that delegation provides. It's a calculated trade-off for a greater reward.
Okay, that makes sense. Once you've efficiently delegated those routine, time-consuming tasks, you're ready to tackle the truly liberating step, muse creation. This is the process of building intelligently automated income streams.
Ah, the muse, the automated money machine. The core objective here is not necessarily to build a massive world-changing enterprise or to pursue the traditional cash-out exit strategy. Instead, the goal is to design an automated vehicle specifically for generating cash without consuming your precious time.
Cash for freedom, not cash for empire building.
Precisely. This cash is intended to finance your dreamlines, that detailed vision of your ideal lifestyle that we'll discuss later. It's about building a machine that fuels your freedom.
And the sources provide a remarkably clear, almost prescriptive set of criteria for designing a successful product or muse. First, it needs an affordably reachable niche market.
Niche is key.
As they pithily put it is more profitable to be a big fish in a small pond than a small, undefined fish in a big pond. You're looking for a very specific, underserved audience. Second, you must focus on filling existing demand, not trying to create demand.
Way easier to fill demand than create it. Much less risky.
Which is far more costly and risky. Third, look for areas with low media costs for advertising and a distinct lack of intense competition. The author famously did this by creating a new product category entirely, something he called neural accelerators.
Brain supplements, basically, but niche targeted.
Think of them as high-performance brain supplements designed to rapidly enhance cognitive function for specific, demanding tasks, a niche that wasn't being targeted this way. Fourth, your product should be easily explainable, with answers to common questions readily available in a comprehensive online FAQ.
Minimize customer service headaches. Smart.
Minimizing the need for endless customer service inquiries. Fifth, it should involve no physical inventory if at all possible, ideally leveraging dropshipping. Sixth, sales must be fully automated via a shopping cart system. Seventh, you want a quick manufacturing lead time, ideally less than 1 week, even in small quantities.
Keep it simple, keep it automated.
And finally, and perhaps most enticingly, you're aiming for a high markup, often 8-10x the cost, or even as high as 20-50x.
Whoa, 50x markup? That's ambitious. But information products often allow for that.
Exactly. What's particularly insightful is the observation that information products, things like audiobooks, online courses, or specialized digital guides, perfectly align with all of these criteria.
Low cost, high margin, easy to deliver.
They are incredibly low cost to produce, can be manufactured virtually instantly, and are inherently difficult for competitors to duplicate. It's far more time-consuming and legally complex for a competitor to paraphrase an entire online course to avoid copyright infringement than it is for them to simply reverse engineer and replicate a physical product like a popular athletic shoe.
Good point. Easier to copy shoes than a whole course. Classic examples cited include Carlton Sheets' no down payment real estate course, or Tony Robbins' iconic personal power audio programs.
But what if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, that sounds great, but I'm not an expert in anything that would sell?
The imposter syndrome question.
The sources address this concern head on, and it's truly liberating. They argue that you absolutely don't need to be the best in the world at something. You just need to know demonstrably more about the topic than your specific, minimal target customer base.
Just one step ahead of your customer is often enough.
Furthermore, they assert that expert status can be intentionally created, often in less than 4 weeks. How? By strategically joining services like ProfNet, which connects journalists with experts, by writing articles for relevant publications, by speaking at industry conferences, or even by leveraging your own compelling failure-to-success stories.
People love a good comeback story. Makes you relatable.
Which are often far more relatable and inspiring than tales of uninterrupted brilliance. It's less about innate mastery and more about perceived authority and having slightly more valuable knowledge than those you aim to serve.
To mitigate risk and quickly validate a muse idea, the sources offer practical, low-cost testing methods. You can leverage Google AdWords pay-per-click campaigns to test the viability of a product concept and assess the effectiveness of different headlines.
Test before you build. Makes sense.
The recommended budget is remarkably small, as low as $50 per day for just 5 days, giving you rapid, real-world data on demand and interest. For simulating hypothetical orders or simply gathering email signups from interested prospects, online tools like woofu.com are incredibly effective.
So like $250 to see if an idea has legs, that's pretty lean.
Very lean. And for quickly setting up a simple, professional-looking website to host your offer, user-friendly platforms like Weebly or WordPress are ideal. This lean approach allows for rapid iteration and validation of your product idea before you commit significant time or capital.
For instance, the sources share how Johanna, who had an idea for a yoga DVD specifically tailored for rock climbing, used these exact methods to gauge interest and assess sales conversion before she produced a single DVD.
Smart move. Test the market first.
Similarly, Sherwood, with his idea for incredibly comfortable French shirts, followed this process to confirm market demand. It's all about gathering actionable data quickly, failing fast, and iterating until you find a viable product.
The ultimate architecture for a successful muse, one that grants you true freedom, is to build a scalable business structure by systematically minimizing your direct decision-making responsibilities. This is about creating a truly process-driven business, not founder-driven.
Processes, not personality.
Exactly. The sources recommend a phased approach for scaling. In the initial phase, from 0 to 50 units sold, you do everything yourself. This is critical for identifying common customer questions and organically building out your comprehensive online FAQ.
Learn the ropes yourself first.
Right. Once you hit around 10 units per week, you can add your robust FAQ and begin outsourcing payment processing. And by the time you're consistently selling 50 units per week, you should be engaging a fulfillment house to handle shipping and logistics and a dedicated call center for customer service.
Scaling up the outsourcing as you grow.
At this point, your phone number should ideally be removed entirely from the business operations. The overarching goal is intentional absence, a business where, as the sources playfully put it, orders are nobody, and nobody can see the great Oz.
Huh. The man behind the curtain is nobody.
The business should run like a well-oiled machine, independent of your daily intervention. This concept isn't limited to small ventures. Even large, successful companies like Applegate Farms, generating $35 million a year, utilize this very same process-driven, hands-off approach.
Wow, even at $35 million, okay. And finally, when it comes to the crucial aspect of sales and converting customers, the sources introduce a truly counterintuitive and bold concept, the lose-win guarantee.
The lose-win guarantee. Yeah, this one definitely raises eyebrows. This particular strategy often raises a lot of questions. For many, the idea of offering something more than just a full refund seems like an unnecessary, even reckless risk for a business.
Like, why give more than their money back?
But if we consider the broader psychological impact, it's designed to make the transaction profitable, or at least risk-free, for the customer, even if the product ultimately fails to meet their expectations. The author's own BodyQuick product, for instance, famously offered a 110% guarantee.
110%.
If it didn't work within 60 minutes, customers would receive a full refund plus an additional 10% on top of their purchase price.
Here's where it gets truly fascinating and flips traditional marketing wisdom on its head. The data from BodyQuick showed that this seemingly extravagant, almost crazy guarantee actually reduced returns to less than 3%. Dramatic decrease compared to the industry average of 12–15% for similar products.
Reduced returns. That is counterintuitive. You'd think it would encourage returns.
Right. And even more impressively, it skyrocketed sales by over 300%. Think about that. By making the guarantee more generous, it signaled such profound confidence that it disarmed customer skepticism.
It's a massive confidence signal. We're so sure this works, we'll pay you if it doesn't.
Similarly, Johanna, with her flexibility DVD, offered a guarantee of 40% increased flexibility in 2 weeks or return for a refund plus keep a bonus DVD. And Sherwood, for his comfortable French shirts, offered most comfortable you've ever worn or 2x purchase price back plus lifetime guarantee.
Double your money back. Wow.
Both of these audacious guarantees saw sales increase by more than 200% in their first 2 months alone. It's a remarkable strategy that redefines risk, builds extreme trust, and transforms customer psychology from skepticism into enthusiastic confidence.
It really is a powerful psychological lever.
Okay. Once you've truly mastered the powerful twin principles of elimination and automation, you're finally ready for what many consider the most exciting and rewarding part of this lifestyle design philosophy. Actively activating your freedom through what the sources call mini retirements and strategically negotiating for remote work.
The fun part.
Let's begin with mini retirements, the groundbreaking idea of redistributing your retirement throughout your entire life rather than saving it all for the end.
This concept is beautifully encapsulated by the classic Mexican fisherman parable, which the sources frequently reference. It tells the story of an American MBA who encounters a content Mexican fisherman.
Oh, I think I know this one. The MBA tells him how to scale his business, right?
It's exactly. The MBA advises the fisherman to build a vast fishing empire over 15 to 20 years, only to then retire to a small coastal village and spend his days doing exactly what he's already doing, sleeping late, fishing, playing with his children, taking a siesta, and playing guitar with friends.
Huh. So the end goal was where he already was.
Precisely.
Hmm.
When we consider this within the larger narrative, this parable highlights a profound cultural divergence in how we collectively define success and the good life. It poses a direct challenge to the deeply ingrained Western idea that immense accumulation of wealth or power must precede any form of enjoyment or leisure.
Why wait if you can have the retirement lifestyle now?
Instead, it subtly suggests that true wealth, true freedom, lies in having control over one's time and the quality of one's present experience, rather than endlessly deferring all joy and fulfillment to an uncertain future.
It's a story that resonates so deeply because it exposes a subtle absurdity in our default aspirations. The alternative to what the sources call binge travel, that whirlwind, exhausting trip where you try to see 10 countries in 14 days and end up utterly wrecked.
Been there, done that,
Not relaxed.
is the mini retirement. This involves a much more intentional, enriching approach.
Yeah.
Relocating to a single, chosen place for a substantial period, typically 1 to 6 months. This extended stay allows for a far deeper cultural immersion.
Living like a local, not just a tourist.
You can learn a new language, truly pick up a new hobby like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in South America, or even try something completely new like hurling in Ireland. It's about truly discovering new passions and interests, rather than just ticking off tourist spots on a checklist. Crucially, it's about physically and mentally unplugging from obsolete routines and the constant motion that often defines our lives back home.
And what's often counterintuitive, almost unbelievable for many people, is the surprising affordability of living a genuinely luxurious lifestyle during these extended mini retirements.
Yeah, this part blew my mind. The sources provide incredibly concrete and compelling examples that challenge our preconceived notions of expense.
You might be listening to this and thinking, that sounds absolutely incredible, but it must be prohibitively expensive, right? But what if I told you, according to the detailed budgets provided in the sources, that living in a spacious penthouse apartment in a vibrant city like Buenos Aires, taking daily private Spanish lessons, engaging in private tango lessons, and dining at 4- or 5-star restaurants twice daily could actually cost as little as $1,533 per month?
$1,500 a month for that lifestyle, including airfare. Seems impossible.
And that figure includes your round-trip airfare from JFK. Or consider Berlin, where luxurious living could be achieved for just $1,180 a month, even including airfare and a week-long stopover in London.
Cheaper than rent in many major U.S. cities.
Exactly. When you directly compare these numbers to typical domestic monthly expenses, your rent or mortgage, car insurance, utilities, daily coffees, and dining out, you often find that an intentional luxury mini retirement abroad can actually save you money. It forces you to rethink your entire financial model for living well.
This truly brings up an important question about our ingrained perceptions of cost and the nature of travel. By choosing to live like a local for an extended period, rather than fleetingly existing as a tourist constantly moving from one hotel to the next, the entire economic landscape fundamentally shifts. You benefit from local prices, avoid tourist traps, and build genuine connections. It's a strategic approach to experiencing the world more deeply and affordably.
But of course, as with any big life change, there are common fears and a litany of excuses that immediately pop up to prevent us from traveling. Things like, I own a house, I have kids, what about health insurance? Or concerns about personal safety and traveling alone.
Usual suspects.
And the sources are quite dismissive of these, often labeling them as simply that. Excuses. They recount meeting and observing incredible individuals who have navigated these very challenges. Paraplegics, deaf senior citizens, single mothers, homeowners, and even people with limited financial resources, all of whom have found ingenious ways to travel extensively and live incredible lives.
Let's address one of the most common concerns: traveling with kids. The sources highlight the illuminating case study of Julie, who embarked on a 15-month journey around the world with her 3 children for an astonishing total cost of between $18,000 and $19,000.
15 months, 3 kids, under $20K. How is that even possible?
To put that in perspective, this was less than her combined monthly rent and baguette expenses back in Paris. Her children, who prior to the trip often bickered and fought, learned immense patience coexisting in what she affectionately called a floating bedroom. And perhaps most surprisingly, discovered a genuine love for reading and books.
That's incredible. So the kids actually benefited hugely.
Massively. Another powerful example is Finn, who chose to go camping for 3 months with 2 young kids, both under 2.5, and his pregnant wife. These stories powerfully demonstrate that far from being an insurmountable obstacle, children can actually be the most compelling reason of all to embrace this kind of adventurous lifestyle, fostering adaptability and a broader worldview.
That's incredibly inspiring. And for those other common excuses, health insurance, for instance.
The sources suggest diligently researching options available for the self-employed or unemployed, listing specific providers like eHealth Insurance and Aetna as starting points.
And for the perennial challenge of packing, I always overpack.
Don't we all? The advice is quite freeing. Mercilessly get rid of clutter, both physical and mental, and aim to travel with an astonishingly light load, less than 10 pounds.
10 pounds, like a small backpack.
Forcing you to distill your possessions to the absolute essentials.
Oh, okay, that's a challenge.
The sources also generously share a treasure trove of practical travel hacks. They suggest strategically using credit card reward points earned from large business expenses to accrue free international tickets every few months. When purchasing flights, they advise booking either far in advance or at the very last minute.
Last minute can be cheaper.
Sometimes, yeah. Specifically targeting Tuesday through Thursday departures and returns, as airlines are keen to fill empty seats, which rapidly lose value once the flight takes off. Utilizing specific, powerful search engines like Orbitz, Kayak, Sidestep, and Travelzoo is also highly recommended to find the best deals.
And once you arrive at your destination, immediately grab a local SIM card for your phone to avoid those exorbitant international roaming charges, as they say. Roaming is for amateurs.
Definitely get a local SIM. Saves a fortune.
For managing your physical mail, services like Earth Class Mail can reroute all your physical mail to a central location, scan it, and email it to you as secure PDFs, allowing you to manage it digitally from anywhere in the world.
So your mail follows you digitally.
Clever. You can even grant power of attorney to a trusted individual or accountant to handle sensitive documents or sign checks on your behalf, completely bypassing logistical nightmares while you're overseas. And if you prefer not to carry a laptop, remote access software like GoToMyPC allows you to securely access your home computer from literally anywhere with an internet connection.
The technology makes it so much more feasible now.
The purpose of these mini retirements then becomes so much richer than just sightseeing. It's truly about deep exploration, immersive learning, whether a language or a new skill, or even engaging in meaningful service, like participating in an archaeological excavation or assisting with tsunami relief efforts.
So once you've truly embraced this newfound mobility and understand the power of mini retirements, the next logical step in this journey to freedom is liberation. Specifically, how to effectively negotiate for remote work, or, as the Japanese eloquently term it, tsukarasaru, meaning to escape the salaryman lifestyle.
Tsukarasaru, I like that. So what does this pivotal concept of liberation ultimately mean for you, the employee, if you're still working a traditional job?
Right, how do you break free if you're in the system?
It means strategically building leverage within your organization. Your company undoubtedly needs you, especially if you're a high performer, delivering significant results. The goal isn't to simply ask for remote work as a personal perk.
Don't frame it as a favor to you.
Instead, it's about making it an irrefutable business decision for your employer, proving the quantifiable benefits of you working remotely, and making it demonstrably costlier for them to refuse your request than to agree to it.
Make it a win for them.
The core strategy for employees is to systematically increase your value to the point where you become truly indispensable, too expensive for the company to lose, and then, and only then, propose the remote work arrangement.
The compelling case study of Sherwood, a mechanical engineer, perfectly illustrates this strategy in action. Sherwood meticulously doubled his productivity by rigorously applying the principles of elimination, cutting out time wasters, minimizing interruptions, and focusing on high-impact tasks.
Doubled his output. Impressive.
The crucial, almost deceptive part of his strategy was that he intentionally held back some of his newfound efficiency.
Held back? Why?
This allowed him to demonstrate a sudden, dramatic jump in productivity during his remote work trial, making his case undeniable. He framed his request for remote work not as a personal desire, but as a clear, quantifiable business decision. He highlighted tangible benefits to the company.
Like what?
3 more designs per day due to uninterrupted focus, and 3 total hours of additional billable client time freed up because he no longer had to endure a long, distracting commute. He presented a bulletproof business case for why remote work was superior for them.
Brilliant. Quantify the benefit to the company. And he didn't go for an all-or-nothing approach right away. He started small, proposing what he called an innocent one-day-per-week trial for just 2 weeks. He emphasized its revocable nature, making it seem low risk for management.
Start small, make it easy to say yes.
Once that initial trial was successful, he gradually extended those periods, slowly increasing his remote days, building a track record of consistent results. Eventually, he requested full-time remote work specifically for a planned trip, leveraging the fact that by then he had proven his ability to deliver, and it would be disruptive for the company to lose him, even temporarily.
Build momentum and leverage.
He expertly timed his requests, asking for what he wanted when it would be most inconvenient and costly for the company to refuse him.
A truly daring example of this ask for forgiveness, not permission strategy comes from Dave Camarello, an employee at Hewlett-Packard. Dave decided to work for 30 days from China, completely without informing anyone at HP.
Whoa. Just went to China and kept working.
Yep. He simply forwarded his calls and continued to deliver his work. When he returned, he hadn't been fired, nor had he faced a reprimand. His profound insight from this experiment was that he had, in essence, asked for forgiveness after proving his value and his capacity to deliver. His actions spoke louder than any request.
That took some serious guts.
It did. This paved the way for him to later gain full, enthusiastic support from HP for spending 2 months a year working from China. This story powerfully underscores the hours versus results principle. Ultimately, companies don't truly care where you work, but demonstrably that you get your work done effectively and consistently.
Results matter more than location, and the sources are absolutely brimming with inspiring success stories from regular readers who applied these very principles. We hear about individuals who achieved fully remote work, dramatically increased their income, and finally pursued long-held passions like becoming professional musicians, actors, fitness instructors, or photographers, all while liberating themselves from the confines of the traditional 9-to-5 office environment. It really brings these concepts to life.
It shows it's not just theory. People are actually doing this.
Okay. Now, all these exciting possibilities we've discussed, the freedom of time, the automated income, the epic mini retirements, they sound absolutely incredible. But let's be honest, any significant life change inevitably comes with its own set of obstacles, primarily rooted in fear and ingrained assumptions.
Fear, the big one.
Our sources don't shy away from this. They address it head on, starting with a remarkably powerful exercise they call fear setting, defining your nightmare.
Fear setting. It's a goal setting. This exercise forces us to confront a really important question about how we typically perceive and react to risk. Instead of allowing vague, amorphous anxieties to paralyze us, the process involves meticulously defining the absolute worst-case scenario that could possibly occur if you were to take the action you're contemplating.
Get specific about the fear.
Exactly. The author himself vividly recounts his own fear-setting exercise before taking a sabbatical year overseas. He imagined his business utterly failing, facing a crippling lawsuit, his inventory spoiling completely, his bank account cratering by 80%, his car and motorcycle being stolen, and even the humiliating prospect of being spat on from a high-rise balcony. He forces himself to visualize every dreaded detail.
Wow, he really went there, spat on. Okay, so let's unpack the profound power of this exercise. What happens when you define the nightmare?
The true beauty of meticulously defining that nightmare is that once it's laid out in stark detail, you can almost always brainstorm simple, actionable, and surprisingly effective steps to recover from each of those perceived disasters.
So you realize it's survivable.
Pretty much. The author realized that none of his highly detailed fears would actually be fatal or irreversible. He classified them as mere panty pinches on the journey of life, with only a temporary impact of, at most, 3 or 4 on a scale of 1 to 10 for overall life impact.
Just a 3 or 4 out of 10 impact. That puts it in perspective.
Right. He understood that he could always take a temporary bartending job or sell furniture or find a quick consulting gig to recover financially. This exercise frequently reveals a profound truth. Quote, "What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do."
The fear points the way.
And perhaps even more critically, it forces us to confront the often ignored cost of inaction, the financial, emotional, and physical toll of not taking the leap. That cost, the sources argue, is almost always far greater and more debilitating than the potential downside of taking the initial frightening action.
The cost of staying put can be higher than the risk of moving.
Building directly on the foundation of conquering fear is the concept of the power of unrealistic goals. The sources make a truly provocative, counterintuitive claim here. Doing the unrealistic is easier than doing the realistic.
Okay, hold on. Easier to do the unrealistic? That sounds backwards. This statement truly flips the script on conventional wisdom, doesn't it? It challenges the very notion that we should always aim for something small and realistic. Why aim for something seemingly achievable when, paradoxically, it's often harder to accomplish?
The reasoning provided is incredibly compelling. There's significantly less competition for truly big, audacious goals.
Less competition for the big goals. Why?
Because 99% of people are utterly convinced they're incapable of achieving great things, so they aim for the mediocre. This means that realistic goals often attract fierce competition, paradoxically making them the most time-consuming and energy-draining to pursue.
So everyone's fighting over the realistic stuff.
Exactly. Think about it. It's often easier in some ways to raise $1 million than $100,000, simply because fewer people are competing for that larger sum. Or, as the author playfully suggests, it can be easier to attract a perfect 10 than 5 eighths.
Huh. Okay, I get the logic.
Furthermore, unusually large, inspiring goals provide a powerful adrenaline infusion and the sustained endurance needed to overcome the inevitable trials and setbacks that will occur along the way. Unlike realistic goals, which might only fuel you through the first minor problem before you throw in the towel, a truly grand vision keeps you pushing forward.
Big goals fuel bigger motivation.
Right. The contrast is clear. The motivation for pursuing a dream catamaran trip through the Greek islands is fundamentally different and far more powerful than the motivation for a mundane weekend trip to Columbus, Ohio. If the payoff is mediocre, the effort often is too.
This perspective profoundly challenges us to be far bolder and more ambitious in our aspirations, to think beyond the immediate, and to leverage the psychological power of a grand vision. Once you've embraced the setting of these unrealistic goals, the next critical step is what the sources term dreamlining, putting unrealistic goals into action.
Dreamlining, making those big goals concrete.
This isn't about meticulously outlining every single step from start to finish, which can quickly become overwhelming and paralyzing. Instead, dreamlining is a practical exercise focused on defining your ultimate end goal, identifying the required vehicle to get you there, primarily your financial target, and crucially, building immediate momentum with critical first steps.
Focus on the first steps, not the whole path.
The process is straightforward. Begin by creating 2 timelines for yourself, one for 6 months and another for 12 months. On each timeline, list up to 5 specific dreams you want to achieve. Categorize these dreams. What do you want to have? Material possessions or experiences? What do you want to be? New skills or personal attributes? And what do you want to do? Specific experiences or adventures?
Having, being, doing. Good categories.
Then from this broader list, identify the 4 dreams that would change it all. The ones that, if realized, would fundamentally transform your life.
The game changers.
The next crucial step in dreamlining is to calculate your target monthly income, or TMI, and your target daily income, TDI, needed to realistically fund these specified dreams. This involves summing up the monthly costs of your recurring dreams and amortizing any one-time goals over the timeline you've set.
Putting a price tag on the dream.
To be conservative and provide a buffer, you then add an extra 30% to account for unexpected expenses or savings. The objective here isn't to achieve absolute financial precision down to the last dollar, but rather to establish a clear, tangible financial target that provides a concrete destination for your efforts.
A clear financial goal.
Finally, and most importantly, for each of your top 4 dreams on the 6-month timeline, you determine 3 concrete, actionable first steps. And here's the kicker. You take the very first step right now.
Take the first step now. That immediacy is key.
Exactly. This immediacy is absolutely vital for building psychological momentum and bypassing the procrastination trap. Finally, let's wrap up with a truly insightful perspective on mistakes and how we view them, encapsulated by the cheesecake factor, mistakes of ambition versus sloth.
Ah, the cheesecake story. It's memorable.
The author shares a wonderfully relatable and rather hilarious anecdote about his disastrous attempt to bake a low-carb cheesecake. It ended up not as a delicious dessert, but as a viscous soup, which he then, almost masochistically, forced himself to spoon down as a form of self-imposed punishment for his failure.
Eating the soupy cheesecake as punishment. This anecdote raises a profoundly important question about how we fundamentally frame our failures and setbacks. Are we making mistakes of ambition, which are an unavoidable, even desirable part of growth and learning?
Mistakes you make when trying something new.
Or are we making mistakes of sloth, which, as the sources reveal, tragically keep us trapped in situations that we instinctively know are detrimental to our well-being.
Mistakes from not acting.
The author clearly defines mistakes of ambition as those that result from a conscious decision to act, even with incomplete information. These, he argues, are to be actively encouraged because, as the old adage goes, fortune favors the bold.
Better to try and fail than not try at all.
Conversely, mistakes of sloth are the debilitating consequences of a decision not to do something, typically out of fear, despite possessing all the necessary facts and insights. These are the truly damaging errors, as they transform what could have been valuable learning experiences into what the sources chillingly call terminal punishments, like a bad relationship festering into a miserable marriage, or a poor job choice becoming a lifelong prison sentence.
Wow. Terminal punishments, that's heavy.
It's a powerful call to reflect on the metaphorical cheesecake that we might be unwillingly and perhaps unknowingly consuming in our own lives, simply out of a fear of taking action.
It's about developing the crucial ability to quit things that simply aren't working, which the sources emphatically state is integral to being a winner. And this leads us directly to the profound cost of inaction and the liberating concept of potentially killing your job.
Killing your job sounds dramatic.
The sources offer a stark yet oddly comforting reality check. Tens of thousands of people, most of them less capable than you, leave their jobs every single day. It's neither uncommon nor fatal. The implication is clear. You are not alone, and it's not the end of the world.
It normalizes quitting, in a way. It's not failure. The question is provocatively posed. If you were fired from your job today, right now, what would your immediate next steps be?
What would you do? It's a good question.
The surprising advice is to take a sick day, and without telling anyone, post your resume on major job sites, perhaps even pseudonymously, just to gauge what other options might exist for you. This simple exercise can be incredibly revealing and empowering.
Test the waters, see what's out there.
The core message here is that if you are a rock star when it comes to results, if your performance consistently speaks for itself, then it genuinely doesn't matter if you decide to jump ship from a bad company after 3 weeks or 3 years. Your proven capability and results will follow you.
Results travel with you.
And ultimately, the sources conclude, pride is stupid. If you allow pride, the fear of what others might think, or a reluctance to admit a mistake, to stop you from making a necessary change, you are quite simply consigning yourself to a life of regret and dissatisfaction 5, 10, and 20 years down the line.
Don't let pride trap you.
The vivid, existential pleas and resignations Mad Libs presented in the source powerfully illustrate the deep frustration and despair many feel in unfulfilling jobs, confirming the stark truth that some jobs are simply beyond repair and require a radical break.
So after this incredible journey, what does all of this ultimately mean for you, our listener? We've unpacked everything from rigorously eliminating unproductive tasks and automating your income streams to taking truly epic mini-retirements that redefine leisure, and even strategically negotiating remote work to reclaim your time and location.
We covered a lot of ground.
The overarching message, crystal clear, is that this philosophy is all about actively designing a life that genuinely works for you right now in the present, instead of passively waiting for some elusive, mythical someday that may never arrive.
Be the architect of your own life.
It's a powerful call to be bold, to relentlessly question the default path that society often prescribes, and to courageously and actively create your own ideal existence, piece by meticulous piece.
And if we connect all these individual threads to the bigger picture, it becomes undeniably clear that the only true rules and limits that govern our lives are often those we unwittingly set for ourselves. This deep dive into the new rich fundamentally encourages a mindset of active creation, a proactive shaping of our circumstances, rather than a passive acceptance of whatever life throws our way.
Active creation, not passive acceptance.
It's about recognizing, as the sources so eloquently put it, that life is neither a problem to be solved nor a game to be won. Instead, it is, in its purest form, an experience to be profoundly lived, savored, and actively engaged with.
So many of us, myself included at times, find ourselves racing through each day on autopilot, caught in an endless cycle of tasks, worries, and deadlines, constantly postponing moments of joy and connection. We're often too busy, too distracted to truly listen to the replies when someone asks, "How are you?" or to truly notice the fleeting sorrow in a child's eyes when we tell them, "We'll do it tomorrow."
That hits deep. The missed moments.
But as the sources beautifully remind us with the poignant poem Slow Dance, life is not a race. Do take it slower. Hear the music before the song is over. After everything we've explored today, what stands out most to you from this deep dive? Perhaps, just perhaps, it's time to truly slow down, to truly hear the unique music of your own life before the song unexpectedly ends.